It's always sunny down in Mexico. The sun gets high when I get low. The only way to get there is to let yourself go. Good times are made in Mexico.
Welcome to the BAI podcast. Today we're joined by a graduating member, graduated BAI bride, Sarah, who got married at Secrets Moxché recently.
Yeah.
Sarah, thanks so much for joining us. We just wanted to chat a little bit about your experience, start to finish. A lot of brides or prospective brides are thinking about doing a destination wedding, and they want to hear from others on just how it all went. So let's start at the beginning. How did you decide to do a destination wedding to begin with?
I know, right? That's like the $1 million question I think I got for 2 years straight from my family, because a destination wedding became a whole thing. So we actually, I believe it was 2022, we went to a destination wedding. Okay. And honestly, it was just an amazing experience to be able to be with their closest friends and family for the whole week. We kind of became one. And it was really intimate. I think there was probably about 60 people, which is still a pretty decent size, but it just felt so intimate and romantic. And that's really kind of what started the conversation. Is that something that we would want? Are we going to be able to get people there? So yeah, it really was just having that kind of more than a one-day event where everybody can get together.
I know for me, that's what drew me into destination weddings to begin with, was
Right.
because I was a wedding photographer, so I was shooting local weddings, and yeah, I had a great time doing it, but man, there was just something different about a destination wedding that was just awesome. And like you said, it's a good way to put it. It's more intimate, right? It's that you're spending multiple days in destination with all these people. You get to know them better, and as the couple gets to actually spend time with everybody instead of just a rushed local wedding at home. So
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. I still feel like there's days I'm like, oh my gosh, did I see this person enough or that person enough? And I'm like, well, yeah, compared to a one-day wedding, absolutely. You had a great time,
Going into it, what were your biggest concerns about planning a wedding in a different country? And on that, how were we able to help with ease those worries?
Yeah, well, I think, gosh, that's kind of a loaded question because well, going into it, I had no idea. I've never used a travel agent. I have no idea where to start, how to plan this. We went to one as a guest, and of course, so I did have a friend that was able to kind of help me. But honestly, she never used a travel agent. She just kind of worked with the resort. And so truly it was kind of the start of how am I going to pick this resort? I spent weeks going through different resorts. Obviously, you really only kind of know what's on their website, and then I would go into all the reviews. And I mean, there's just so many to choose from. That was taking way too long. So I guess that was the first hurdle. And then so I started getting on Facebook groups, and people were like, you need a TA. And truly, I did go through a couple different ones, and it didn't seem like the right match. I've never used one. I didn't know, how much they would cost, what they would do for me, anything. And then I did talk to a couple different ones, and it just didn't seem like a good match. And then once I talked to you, it just kind of really was like a breath of fresh air, just kind of being like, oh my gosh, thank you. You know what you're talking about. I feel like you can really help me. This is it. I'm going with you, and that really kind of was the start of just kind of choosing the resort. And once, that happened, it was just kind of, moving on from there.
I think there's a little bit of overwhelming with the number of properties out there, and everything looks good on paper, right?
Absolutely.
Everything looks good in the pictures.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many options, and they're all completely different. And, I think that's one thing I try to push to our couples is there's good and bad about every single resort out there. The reason why we have consultations with our clients beforehand is because this is not transactional. This is not something we can be like, okay, you're doing it. No, we really want to dive in and be like, okay, well, what are you looking for in a resort? What are you looking for in your budget? What are you looking for the guest budget? There's so many variables to consider. I don't know how long our consult lasted, but usually they last a while.
Yeah, yeah. It was a lot of information. I remember being like, okay, but that's what I needed, and
Yeah.
you had kind of like the ins and out of the resorts you were talking about more than what obviously their website or even reviews are going to tell me. And I think going into it, something that really helped us was, okay, what are we looking for in a resort? For example, food was really important to us. We wanted a nightlife. And there's not going to be a resort, I think, that has everything that you're looking for, but like, 3 or 4 main important, really, things that you want for your guests.
Yeah.
And that's how we really just narrowed it down.
In choosing your resort, was there any like aha moment that was like, this is it?
Like I said, food and nightlife was really important to us. We knew that we kind of had a little bit of a rowdy group, and I know that, if everything closed at 10 p.m., they would want somewhere to go. And so there was a speakeasy at Secrets Moxché and all the videos. I mean, it's a club. It's so cool. I'm like, I can't wait for everybody to experience this. Also with the food, there was tons of food reviews. It's high end. They do really well with kind of like allergies and things like that. I know we talked about that. I had some dietary restrictions in our group. So really it was just kind of those two things. I was like, okay, we're in.
Funny you mentioned the allergy situation, right? Because my wife has celiac disease, no gluten, right? And it's not just a trendy diet thing. It's no, she's
Right.
going to get sick.
Right.
We had a situation at Moxché.
Yeah.
She was served gluten. I not only had a meeting after when we got home with the general manager, but also higher ups at Hyatt Inclusive Collection as well to address that whole situation. We have since gone back to the same property and saw so many changes implemented in that process. Food prep and the logistics of how they bring the food out, all of those things had changed completely. To go through that experience and see the changes implemented.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, now I feel much better
Yes.
about telling my clients about this resort, right?
Yes.
So because those things are so important. So
Yeah.
so I'm glad that went well.
And honestly, you were transparent with me and told me that whole story, but you also told me the outcome. And instead of it actually steering me away, I was like, okay, they're aware they made the changes, and it made me more like, okay, this is where we want to be because they're doing it right now,
Right.
And so, yeah, and there's tons of like vegan and gluten-free options, and we had dairy-free and soy-free. I mean, quite a bit, of different restrictions, and there wasn't one hiccup all week long with anybody
Good.
in terms
Good.
of the
And it
restrictions.
is. It's so important. And it's like,
It is.
I think sometimes, on our side as agents, we're so pushed to be like, just sell it.
Yeah,
Just sell it.
sure.
And I'm like, I tell everyone, listen, I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm going
Yeah.
to give you off of my experience. I'm going to tell you what I really feel about the property. We're all human. People do mess up. There are mistakes that make. I mean, no matter where you are, but how you react to it and how you solve that problem
Absolutely.
is everything. I mean, on our end, we're always going to give it to our
Yeah.
clients straight and say, here's my experience. This has happened. The good and the bad. There's no resort where it's just all good all the time. How did working with BAI compare to what you had expected? Obviously, you said you'd never worked with an agent before and that kind of stuff. So what were your expectations, and how did we compare to what your expectations were when you first started looking for help for your wedding?
Yeah, I really didn't even know what a travel agent did. So in terms of expectations, I was kind of clueless, but it really did end up kind of blowing me out of the water. I mean, I felt like I 100% could trust you in communication. Like I said, I did talk to a few before, and there was just really lack of communication. And this is obviously the most important thing to me at the time, right? Like it's huge for me. And so that just was unacceptable. You were always extremely transparent with me, just even talking about the allergies. I went to you at one point, even emotionally. I mean, during that time of wedding planning, it's insane, right? Like I had no idea that this is what brides go through. I'm like, kudos to every bride planning a wedding. But, I had guests that were really concerned about safety in Mexico. And I'm like, I don't know. I've been there. I feel comfortable. I don't know what to say to them to make them feel comfortable. And that has nothing to do with booking a room or our resort or anything like that. And I reached out to you like, do you have any advice? You sent me this great email with a lot of information, being completely transparent. And I was just like, thank you. Like you guys were there for me more than, our room block or things like that. And then in terms of the logistics, I wasn't even really like, you created the whole website, you took care of all the booking, you were there for all of our guests, all the way up to when we were there that week. If I had a question, I could send a quick email and there was a response in 30 minutes. I would tell everybody I love James, my TA, all year, because I'm like, you have a question, ask him. I guarantee he'll get back to you within the evening, like by today. And that's truly important when you're going through something like this, because to you, as a bride, it's the most important. Everything's so time sensitive, everything's sensitive already, and so I just felt a connection with that.
Thank you. I love the feedback. We set the expectation in my daily life, right? As far as like, we constantly have the inbox up. We got people getting married tomorrow. Like, I'm like, okay, what's going on? My phone, and I'm making sure that we're in communication. But because I think as a consumer, communication is so important. I get so frustrated, and it's like I'm always in this spot where it's like I'm dealing with the resorts that like to work on island time.
Yes.
And yet at the same time, like, we're also treating our clients like, nope, I'm going to give you an immediate answer.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, but sometimes we have to wait for the resort, and it puts us in a spot that's very frustrating sometimes, because it's like we want to help right away, right away. So even if we don't know the answer yet, hey, I'm going to respond right away and let you know I'm working on it. I'm waiting on the resort, and keep you informed. But in my day-to-day life, I can't tell you how frustrated I get sometimes with some companies that I'm like, I emailed you a week ago. Why am I not getting a response?
I could imagine. Yes. I mean, because, that's something I think a lot of brides talk about too, is kind of the communication with the resorts, because they are on their island time. I love that you said that. It's so true.
Right. From the guest experience, did you get any feedback about the planning process from the guest side of things at all from them?
Yeah, there was just a couple things where I think some people had trouble with payments in far as the website itself. There was, I think, 2 people. We had 41 guests. In terms of booking, other than that, I mean, but right away, they knew who to email. They got a hold of you guys. You were able to help them that day again, so it wasn't a big issue. That was really the only, thing, other than it was easy. I did have a lot of people say thank you so much for making it easy for us to book. I think the website was very clear. I was pretty big in communication with my guests too, in terms of what to expect. I wanted specific things on the website for them to know. But I think everybody was pretty pleased with it.
Good. Yeah, and obviously the website's like, we can customize things as much as we want, you know. So if you're like, hey, I changed your plans, I want to do this, I want to we can obviously update and customize things as much as possible there. Regarding the payment issues and whatnot, sorry if there were any issues, but I do know on our end, sometimes our transfer companies based in Mexico, those payments get declined regularly because it's fraud. Why is this person charging this in Mexico? It's not fraud, but it gets flagged a lot of times by credit card companies.
And I think that's probably what was happening. But they were able, I mean, it wasn't anything major that they weren't figuring out or anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, fairly common in our industry, obviously. With all the different places that we're facilitating payments for and whatnot. The resort and your experience itself, from your perspective and from the guest perspective, were there any unexpected touches or moments from the resort that made your experience more special, or any standout experiences for the guests during their stay?
I've heard a lot of different stories off of the top of my head. I know that it is a little more of a luxury resort, and I think the guests were really able to feel that when they were there. The staff was absolutely incredible. Me personally, our wedding planner, especially the day of our wedding, I mean, what they do for a living is insane, and they're there all the time, and they have weddings, let's say 3 times a week, but it was just still so personal. And she, for example, it rained, so we had to move everything inside. I mean, our weather truly was awful that week, but it didn't, we were still in the hot tub and it was raining. I mean, there was still servers serving us, when she was telling me we had to move inside. It's like 9 a.m. on my wedding day. I'm crying, she's hugging me. It just was, it's just like, I met her, 4 days ago. We're best friends. Like,
Yeah.
it's just an experience where they're really there for you, right? They do not want you to have a bad time. They do not want anything to happen to you. And they're going to make sure everything goes as smooth as possible. If you have any issues, you're calling somebody, they're fixing it, say your room or whatever it is. I mean, I think overall, one specific thing I can't really tell you as in a guest perspective right now. I'm sure if I asked around there would be, but it was incredible, honestly. Like the staff was amazing. They really just kind of go over and above and beyond to make you feel comfortable and feel special to be there,
I've been, traveling for years and have been to a lot of resorts because it's my job, right? The key thing that makes the difference, it's the people. There's been resorts I've been to that are great resorts, and if the staff isn't on their game with how they interact with people and how they
Right.
take care of people, it takes away from the experience quite a
Right.
bit. I think the key factor at any resort is the people. It makes a difference for all the guests, 100%. So, now what were your original wedding locations supposed to be at Moxché?
It was supposed to be on the pool deck.
At the pool deck.
It was
Okay.
on the pool deck, and we specifically had, certain lighting for that area and everything. I mean, it was very curated to be there, and I know that was something. We had these beautiful chandeliers, and I know that was something I really wanted. And when we moved it inside, she's like, they won't fit. Well, it's things like that. Come to find out, I walk in, they made them fit. She's like, I have a surprise for you. I'm like, the chandeliers are in here. And I know it sounds so silly, right? You're like, who's thinking about like a chandelier, whatever, but decor like that. But those are the things that you're so honed in on, for a year before your wedding. So of course
Right.
that day I'm like, what? I don't even get these. And then,
Right.
they made it happen. There were quite a bit of surprises like that.
Where was the ceremony then? Obviously, we got moved inside. Where was the ceremony and the reception end up being?
So everything ended up being on the sky deck, but inside.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And the sky deck is that's the best sky deck I've ever seen because you have the indoor and the outdoor and all in one location there. I love it. And you also got air conditioning.
Absolutely. It was 100% humidity the day we got married, of course, and raining.
Right.
And all of our guests say, they were like, we're so happy we're inside. We got to dance on the rooftop of this, resort all night long. Like everybody was so happy about it. Of course, I was a little upset at first because it's just not what I planned. And honestly, it ended up being, fantastic. It was amazing. I'm so glad we moved it inside. And it was beautiful. They made it happen. Just a few hours before, the ceremony started. So
Yeah, that as a backup location is just ideal.
Oh, absolutely.
Because a lot of backup locations are just a ballroom.
Yeah.
And that location's a bit different. You've got, full windows all the way around. Like you've got this panoramic view, and it's still very beautiful up there in
Oh,
and
yeah.
of itself without feeling like you're in a ballroom.
Absolutely.
And so that's huge. Looking back on your wedding day, obviously you had ceremony, reception. Were there any other events that you did days leading up or days after?
Yeah, so we ended up doing, we had a little bit of a rehearsal dinner. And I say a little bit because it was only for 10 of us, and it included our grandparents and our parents, and it was kind of semi-private at a restaurant, which I loved that we did that. I thought it was extremely special to have that time with them. And then the rest of our bridal party could still enjoy any restaurant that they wanted with their spouse or friends. So actually that worked out perfect. And then afterwards, we kind of had an unofficial welcome party at the Dark Horse, which was, they call it a sports bar, but it's beautiful. It's like a lounge in there. They had karaoke, and so we ended up we had an hour-long video or photography coverage from the resort and had them come there during that too. And so it wasn't private. It wasn't shut down for guests, but there was 41 of us. And it was such a good time. It worked out great. Anybody can just obviously go up and get drinks, or we'll just walk outside to the taco stand, sing karaoke. We were all mingling. And then afterwards, quite a few either went to the club or went to bed. So it was great.
I like that bar. I've had some intense foosball games
Yes.
upstairs there.
Yep.
And I've had some fun at the golf simulator upstairs there as well.
Yes,
So,
it's so cool. There's so much entertainment, you know.
yeah,
It's there's something for everybody. And that's just one place, but that whole
right.
resort truly, that's actually thinking about it. Another reason why we went with that is because there is something for everybody to do there.
The entertainment team there does a really good job. I mean,
Yeah.
I know entertainment teams have a lot of turnover, and so it's kind of hard to like keep up. All of my experiences I can remember at that resort, the entertainment team's really been active during the day and during the night. They can make it a little bit and make it a lot more fun.
Absolutely, with all the classes and everything that they do, you know, a lot of times at resorts they'll have like the pool exercises and stuff like
Right.
that, but they do additional classes and oh my gosh, that resort just has so much to offer for the guests.
As part of your room block contract, though, you got that private dinner or semi-private dinner, right? Because it's just basically a dinner reservation that we're at the resort.
Right, right.
So you utilized that for the rehearsal dinner.
We did.
And then met up with the guests afterwards. So yeah, I
We
mean
did.
that's awesome. Glad that worked out. Looking back on the wedding day, what would you say was the most emotional moment on wedding day?
Oh, you know, I mean, just in terms as like, kind of like the resort, it definitely was just moving inside and having to, you know, make sure all of my guests knew where to go. That was kind of a big thing. I
Yeah.
was getting around in the bridal suite and she comes in and she's going through all the options and she's so sweet about it. And I'm like, but how are we even going to tell everybody? Well, of course, you have all of your friends, your closest people there. They're like, we got this, you know. I didn't have to do anything. But that was kind of emotional for me. And
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think it's just like, you know, you're a little high strung in the morning and a lot of changes. And it's not like I could sit there, right, with my husband, who I normally would talk to about it, sitting
Right.
next to me. But I think that probably stands out. I mean, and not necessarily in a negative way now, because obviously
Yeah.
it all worked out. And I completely trusted her at the time, too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it just was kind of like, of course, you know, and I looked at it like, oh, you know, of course I have to move inside. But once I saw everything, I'm like, oh, this is better than I was going to be on the pool deck. Like,
Right.
what? So, with the resort, it was probably that. When we did get back to our room, it was a surprise that we had, you know, a banner on our door and then just married with like flowers in our room. And they really did up our room. And that was something just kind of special and a surprise to come back to after the end of the day, that, you know, you're just, you think you're done and you're just kind of on this high, and you get back and you're like, oh, like this is just so sweet. You know, you wouldn't get that if you were just like coming home or going to a regular hotel, or, you know, those special moments. That was really special for us.
Right. It is those little things that
Yeah.
make a world of difference, I think, whether or not you're having a wedding or not.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's those little things. What have your guests said about the wedding or the resort? Were there any first-time guests attending all-inclusive for the first time?
A
And what was
lot.
their reaction? That's always my favorite part, is seeing somebody go to an all-inclusive for the first time. It's just like eye-opening experience for them, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch.
Yes, there was a lot of first timers in our group. And so, you know, it was interesting and it was kind of funny because I joked around all week. I was like, well, here's the deal. You guys are spoiled now. So if you go to another resort and it's not like this, because it may not be, because this is a pretty nice resort. Like, you know,
Right.
I joke about it, but there's people talking about we're going back for our 5-year. My parents are like, we're going back next year. I mean, everybody loved it. It was just, I mean, it's just luxury there, right? And it's gorgeous. And I think, you know, I kind of was like, people were pretty nervous traveling with our group. And I was like, once you get there, you know, just get there and you'll feel it. You'll be fine. And it's true. You know, now the people who were nervous about going, you know, or had hesitations, or like blown out of the water, like just, you know, enjoyed themselves, loved it. The travel was great. The transportation was great. You know, they're talking about going back, and it's just like, remember 2 years ago when you were really unhappy that we were traveling to Mexico? But
It's
it
so
did.
frustrating, you know, from my perspective. You know, obviously I've been traveling once a month for years.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
for me, going to these destinations is like, I don't think
Anything.
twice,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
So it's frustrating because it's really the media, right?
Absolutely.
So
Oh,
that
yeah.
make Americans in general make them scared to death to
Yeah.
leave their hometown,
Yeah.
and it's like I always have to flip it around, and say, yeah, I'm working with a Mexican couple that's considering to go to Disney World, but there was a mass shooting in Las Vegas the other day, so they don't want to come to the United States at all.
Right.
And
Right.
it's just like, and then it sinks in how ridiculous that idea is,
Yes.
and it's like
Absolutely.
the truth of the matter is the tourist destinations like Cancun are not where you're hearing about like all the crime that you hear and how dangerous it is.
No.
You're hearing about that at the border. So it's which is literally 1,000 miles away, and it's a shame. And it's not just Mexico. It's
Oh,
Jamaica. It's the
yeah.
Dominican Republic. I mean, it's all the countries that we work with. And the truth of the matter is, you need to be aware and safe in any situation you are at home as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a shame sometimes because I think a lot of people don't get out and experience things outside their comfort zone because of you know incorrect fear,
Yeah.
and being misled by media a lot of times that just thrives on scare tactics.
Yeah.
Um, you
Absolutely.
know, yeah, it can be frustrating,
But
but
I'm
I'm
glad.
glad that your group went out and
Yeah.
yeah, and experienced it, and because then once they do, it's like it's eye opening,
Mm-hmm.
and it's eye opening to the rest of the world as well, to see what's out there,
Yes.
and go experience it. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, so looking back, now that you've gone through it, you graduated, right? So, um, was there, if you could do it all over again, would you still choose a destination wedding?
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yes. I can't imagine putting all that time and energy into something for one day. That's a big thing for us. And I think having everybody there for the week, we just felt the love and support and seeing everybody come together. I mean, I have different friend groups. He has different friend groups, a blended family that's coming in. And now, I mean, different friend groups are going on a guy's trip here in a few weeks. And that came out of that week. I mean, that is so special to me. And I just couldn't imagine, that wouldn't have happened with a wedding here. One day people barely say hi to each other. It would have been 300 people. It would have went by. I wouldn't have been able to enjoy it like I feel like I was able to actually be present and enjoy it there.
I love that.
So yeah,
I
I
love
would I would 1,000% recommend it. Um, if anybody's kind of just interested in even talking about it. But yeah, I definitely would do that again.
It is. It's amazing what you said. Like, I love the fact that you said, hey, there's a guy's trip coming up that wouldn't have happened
Oh yeah,
had we not done the destination
yeah,
wedding. Like, that is just like, it's amazing to me because I
yeah.
think, as a photographer and as as an agent as well, like attending weddings, destination weddings, I'm always thrown back a little bit. We get to actually truly be part of a once in a lifetime
Yeah.
experience for
Yeah.
our clients. I think a lot of our clients are wishing to recreate that. We've got a lot of clients like, hey, we're going to do anniversary trip, but the anniversary trip rarely actually
Happens
comes
probably.
together.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. It's awesome. I love that your group was able to
Hmm.
experience that, and then create new friendships and new experiences that are coming out of it that wouldn't have happened
Yeah,
otherwise. It's just so cool, so
it's
cool. That's why we
special.
do what we do. Like I love it, and it doesn't happen at local weddings. It really doesn't.
It
It's
doesn't.
so completely different experience. One last question, I would say, what would you tell other couples who are considering a destination wedding but might be on the fence about it?
Do it. No, I guess it's just really, it's more of a conversation. Like, why are you on the fence about it, And truly to finding a TA as you, James, was so beneficial and talk to somebody you can trust. And I truly trusted you. You have intuition and talk about it. Like, what are your pros and cons and weigh it out, truly. But again, it's something so intimate and so special, and you're not going to get what you're not going to get what you can get having an at-home wedding that you can get at a destination wedding. I mean, you're just not. Um, and so, it's really just kind of like, what are your pros and cons? What's
Yeah.
important to you? Um, but it is something truly special. And it's really hard to explain the
Yeah.
feeling and how special it is until you're there and you see your closest friends and family in the pool with you, all mingling and all together for days. I mean, how do you explain that feeling? It's
Right.
so, um,
You just have to experience it.
you
It's,
do, you do.
yeah. Yeah. And then it sounds like, I mean, you experienced it as a guest first. And
Yeah,
then you're like,
yeah,
okay, this is much better and different than any
yeah,
wedding I've attended, right?
yeah,
And then you're like, yeah, I want to do this for my wedding because
yeah.
this is unique, right? So yeah, I think that's awesome. I know you had said you met with other agents before you found us. Did you happen to meet with anybody that charged fees to use them?
Yeah, I did. I did. And I was just like, okay. And it was a lot.
Right.
I
But
mean,
that didn't make you feel like, oh, well, they're legit and James must not be legit because he doesn't charge a fee.
no, not at all. Honestly, it was extremely pushy. And before I even got much information, they wanted money. So I was just like, this just almost, it just didn't feel right.
Right, right.
And they were pretty big on TikTok and stuff. And that's how I found them. And I'm just like, okay, I think I don't know, it just didn't feel right.
I think there's so much misconception out there. I think
Yeah,
people think that, well, you have to pay an agent and then you end up paying more than you would if you're booking on your own. Like, that's not how we work, guys.
right,
Like, no matter if you pay them a fee, they're still earning commission off of the bookings as well.
right.
So, I mean, from a business side, I guess, kudos to them if they can convince people to pay them a fee, but we don't do that. I've got a lot more travel experience than a lot of my competition as well,
Yeah,
because of my photography background. And it's just like, we hop into a consult with a client and they last 2 hours sometimes
yeah,
because we're diving in with them and figuring out what they want and what's important to them. But I think the value we add in our experience, not only on the resort side of things, but on the wedding logistical side of things. I mean, how many conversations I have with people about timeline and event locations and
I
whatnot,
know.
that they're just not having those conversations with a travel agent that doesn't travel regularly.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we earn a fair living on the commission side of things. So I don't see a point in charging additional
I
fees, but
know, I know.
yeah, it's just one thing out there that, I think the industry is pushing a lot of like travel agent associations and whatnot are really pushing agents to charge fees for
Mm,
things. And it's just like, uh, I don't know, would you use a real estate agent that's like, hey, you can use me and you can pay this much to use me and I'll earn commission on your booking, on
right.
your sale? Not how we operate.
Yeah.
so, so,
Well, and somebody like me going into it, I had no idea. Thankfully, because I was like, well, maybe if, I wasn't in a spot to put up that money right then and there. But if I was, and I went that way, I would have had no idea. But thankfully, it really didn't feel right. It wasn't that again, a wedding is something so sentimental. And when you're just kind of pushing money, it really
yeah.
just,
It's just one of those things that you don't know what you don't know. And so
yeah,
if you go into like Facebook groups and you see, everybody saying, oh, use this person, pay the fees, whatnot. I think if you don't know that it's actually not normal for agents to charge
right.
fees, I think you think it's normal and you think, okay, well, I must do it because everybody does it. But luckily, there's enough people that are still vocal in our Facebook groups and
Yeah,
whatnot that are saying,
true.
nope, not normal to charge
Yeah.
to charge for an agent to charge a fee on top of earning the commission that they earn as well. So, yeah, I mean that's one thing our company will never do. It's interesting you said, one of the biggest concerns was with changing the location was how are you going to get this information to your guests?
Yeah.
That's actually something we've been looking into, and we're looking to start implementing for our groups. Nothing's set in stone yet, but we're looking at some options for basically group texting that will be handled for the wedding group. So that when guests are making their reservations, they're going to be added to a text list as well. And then the bride would have access to send text to that group as well.
That
There's
would
just
be a
some legal
game
things about it.
changer.
and sending and not being spam and all that kind of stuff. But that's something we're looking to add if we can get through the legal side of things. With it, I think it would have been nice if we had it for yours. I'm sorry we didn't.
That's okay.
But we're learning.
Honestly, that would be a huge, huge game changer. That's something I think a lot of brides talk about is how to communicate with your guests. And that is something even with your invitation is kind of like, some people when they RSVP, they ask for their email and they communicate that way. I know not everybody has an iPhone, so you can't necessarily do like iMessages or I had grandparents and parents who actually have track phones. So we knew going into it that their phone wasn't going to work while they were in Mexico. And so we had to figure out a different way to communicate with them. So that part was a little tricky. Because some people had the WhatsApp app. Some people had iPhones. Some people, couldn't be in a group message and stuff. So that part was a little tricky. Thankfully, we only had 41 guests. And it wasn't too bad, but
it's very challenging with all the different platforms. Everybody outside of the U.S. is on WhatsApp, apparently the U.S. is not on WhatsApp. So it's frustrating in our business because we have our colleagues that are overseas. Everybody's WhatsApp. But then when I'm texting people here, nobody's on WhatsApp. It's challenging for sure. But we're looking at options to resolve that for our clients, if we can navigate all the legal hurdles of it.
Sure.
That's this is a business texting people. Did they sign up for this? And it's not really marketing. Like we're not using it for marketing, but we use it to communicate with our clients and guests during travel. Because let's face it, like even though we could send emails, I don't know about you, but when I'm on vacation, no, I'm not checking that inbox. Right. And I think that's how a lot of people are. So, we'll continue looking into that. Hopefully we can come up with something new. Sarah, thank you so much for your time today and answering some questions about your experience at Secrets Moxché, one of my favorite resorts. One of the nicest resorts out there, in my opinion. So, I do love it. Has a lot to offer. Great food, great staff. Really, really fun nightclub through the pharmacy. But no, I'm glad everything went well, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Aw, thanks, James. It's always fun talking to you. I appreciate it.
Sunny down in Mexico, the sun gets high.